Okay, let's do a solution to the classwork. So where we are right now is we've got this bank account class, and every bank account has a name and an amount of money in it and a PIN number. We've got our constructor, and we have a withdraw and a deposit method. And the big thing from last time was figuring out how to have inputs to our method so you can tell it how much money do you want to withdraw. But then also, what's your actual PIN number? Because if you get the PIN number wrong, that's the first thing it checks. It checks to see, is the input for your PIN number the same as your object's actual PIN number? So you can see the color coding here. Purple is matching to your actual object variable up here. And this guess is the input variable. So it's saying, is the input PIN number the same as the actual PIN number? And if it is, then we check to make sure we have enough money. And if we do, then we withdraw it. Similarly for deposit. Okay, so the new thing that I added between this time and last time was a getter method for the name variable, following the pattern that we talked about. So remember, the pattern for a getter method is you have the word get and then the name of one of your variables. And this provides a way for your main code to ask a bank account object, hey, will you tell me what your name is? Or will you tell me how much money is in the account? And what it does is it returns a copy of the value of one of these object variables. So it just gives a way for the main code to access that variable because now they're all private. Okay, so let's now look at the new things over on this side. So just like last time, we have a display menu which shows the choices, except now we have more choices. We could create an account. We could display all the account names. These three are the same as last time, same as exit actually. Okay, so last time what we had was we just had a single bank account object called B, where we ran the constructor, and we had Lord Fancyham. And Lord Fancyham had a very simple PIN, as I recall. And of course, the account starts out with $0. So now, instead of having an account that's pre-created, we'll have a whole list of bank accounts. But when I create my account list here, it's empty because I haven't added any yet. So instead of actually adding some in the code here, I'm not going to add any in the code. Instead, what's going to happen is when the program runs, one of the options is for the user to create an account if they want to. So let's fill that code in now. So we have this loop where we display the menu. We ask them which option they want. And if they chose option 0, that option is the option to create a new account. So I'm going to translate each of these lines of pseudocode into actual Java. So I want to ask their name, and then I want to ask their PIN number, and then I actually want to make an account that fits what they said. So if I'm going to ask their name, I'll need a name variable. I already have a scanner created here. It's up here. It's called user_in. So I'll say user_in. You could use a JOption pane, by the way. That's okay. So you could say user_in.nextLine. Oh, I guess I need to ask them the question that I want to ask them. Type the name for the new account. And then I'm going to print another question. Type the PIN for the account. Except this time, it's going to be, next int, because the PIN is going to be an int. All right, so I've asked their name and I've asked their PIN, so that's done. So now I'm going to run the bank account constructor. I'll need a variable, so I'll say bank account B equals new bank account. Except this time, instead of saying like Lord Fancyham, this time the input is whatever name the user gave. And then the PIN number is whatever PIN the user gave. So these two variables contain what the user typed, and now I'm taking what the user typed and I'm sending it into the bank account constructor to tell it to make a new bank account object for me. Okay, cool. So now I have a new bank account object, but I need to add it to my account list. So here's the account list. So I'm going to say account list.add, and then B is the thing that I'm adding. So this really is like a combination of everything you've ever done in Java so far. Almost. We don't have if statements yet, but we're getting there. For loops also. All right, cool. So let's do this problem, and then we'll test it to make sure it works. So in this problem, this is where they're displaying all accounts. So it says loop over account list, get each account object, and display each name. All right, so this is a pattern we've looked at a couple times before. So the location numbers are going to go from 0 up to, well, let's see, I don't know how long the account is. I don't know how long the account list is. When you first create it, the account list is 0, but you wouldn't want to say 0 here. So this is a situation where the length of the account list depends on how many times the user has created new accounts. And we can only know that once the program has started running. So I can't put any single number here because I don't know after the program runs how many accounts are going to get created. Like, is it 10? Is it 100? But what we can do is we can ask the account list what its own size is. So that's what we're going to do. And then we're going to BankAccount account. It doesn't matter what you name your variable. These are arbitrary. It's just like the box that you're saving your object into. But I'm going to create a BankAccount object, but I'm not actually creating a new one. Instead, I'm asking the account list to get the bank account in the location for my location variable. So again, the pattern is the location number starts at 0. So the first time we repeat this, we're getting the object at location 0. And then the next time, we're going to get the next one and the next one. All right. And so then the last thing I need to do, so I've looped over the account. I got the account object out of the list. Now I need to display the name. So if I'm displaying something, I need a print statement. If I'm displaying the name, I need some way to get the name variable out of the account object. So way over here in the corner, you can see inside the bank account, we've got a name. Before, we would do something like this, account.name. But now you can see it says name has private access. And what that means is once we made it private, now only the bank account code itself can access its own variable. So we can't access it over here anymore because this is a different class. This is the main code. But I wrote a getName method, which exists to let us access that name. So I can say account.giveMeTheName. And so this is going to return the name from inside the bank account. And now that I've returned it, I can print it. All right, let's run it and make sure it works, and then we'll do the second half of the solutions. Oh, okay, so I gotta fix these other things. Hold on. Okay, that other thing was unrelated to this project. All right, so welcome to the ATM. Let's display all account names. But you see it doesn't display anything. And the reason it doesn't display anything is because we have no accounts. So let's do 0 to create an account. Type the name for the new account. Oh, you know what we need though? It looks like it skipped this one. So this is, some of you know about this bug already. Some of you don't, but here it is. When we say type the name for this account, what do we actually need to do here? Up here after int, we need to say userin.next. You know what? I'm going to add this to your code so that it fixes already. But let's run it one more time. So you won't have to fix this on your own. So let's do 0. Is that really? Grump, grump, grump. Okay, I fixed it. So what the bug was is when you type in int and you read the int from the scanner, it'll give you the int, but it won't give you the character that you get when you press enter. It won't return the enter character. And so then later on, if I ask for a string, now all of a sudden when I get the next line, it's giving me the enter character that I'd actually typed earlier on. If that's confusing, you don't need to worry about it that much. This line of code fixes it. It's not something that you need to dwell on right now. Okay, so anyway, so it's fixed now. So I said create an account, type the name for the new account. Okay, Lord Fancyham. Type the PIN for the account, just 3 5s. Okay, so now I'm going to display the account names by hitting 1. And now it says Lord Fancyham. Cool. Let's create another account. This one's for David Dobrovich. My PIN is 12345. Now let's display all account names. Cool. So now we got 2 account names, Lord Fancyham and David Dobrovich. All right, so that works so far. But we can't do deposit and withdraw yet because if I say deposit, now I need to say which account am I trying to deposit into. So let's do that part of the solution. Okay, so here we are inside deposit. We'll ask them which bank account object they want. So there's a couple ways to do this. One way is if we wanted to, when we're displaying all the accounts, we could actually display, let's display the location number followed by the account name. So that way, here, let me show you what that looks like. So that way you could actually have people type the number of the account they want. It's kind of a pain to have to recreate these every time. Okay, so let's display all account names. So you can see account 0 is David. And then we could, when we deposit, we could have them type 0 and like get out the object at location 0. So that's one way of doing it. But I think what I'd prefer is actually having them type the name on the account. So let's do that. So I'll create a variable to hold what they type. And what's it called? User in is my scanner. And then next line. I always forget to ask them the question I want them to answer. So type the name of the account you want. Okay, so they do that. And now I have to loop over all of the accounts until I find the actual object that has the name I want. So let's do that pattern where we loop over all the locations. So I'm going from location 0 up to account list.size. I'm going to say bank account B equals new bank account. Nope. Equals account list dot get location. All right, so that's the pattern for get each object out of the list. Except now it's like we did in the slides. Now I want to test each bank account to see is the name the one I'm looking for. So I'm going to say if b.getName, I'm going to do it a little bit wrong first. So if b.getName equals name. What's name, you're wondering? Name is what they typed in here. So they type in something. They type in, Rock Lobster. And then if name is Rock Lobster, we loop over every single bank account and say, hey, what's the name inside the bank account? Is it equal to Rock Lobster? And if it is, that's when we want to do the other stuff. So let's go ahead and maybe paste in the other stuff. And notice this is, I can say b.deposit because b contains the bank account that I'm getting out of the list. Okay, so what's wrong here is this double equals sign. If you hover over it, you can see IntelliJ knows. It says string values are compared using double equals, not dot equals. And that's what it's saying is wrong. They should be compared using dot equals. So we'll say get name dot equals name, like that. All right, so that's that one. This can be cleaned up a little bit. I think there's a better pattern here, but this is definitely going to work. So let's now copy and paste this for withdrawing. And withdrawing is going to be pretty much the same as depositing. Type the name of the account you want. Okay, I get the name. Now I'm looping over all the accounts, and I find the account with the name I want, except now I'm going to say how much to withdraw. I'll ask for the PIN number, and now instead of running the deposit method, I'm going to run the withdraw method. Cool. Let's do display account info. So that's the same thing. I'll ask them the name of the account they want. I loop over all the accounts. I get each one out. What am I doing? I test the name, except now I'm not asking them any questions. Now the only thing I want to do is say b.display. Because the display method is the one that displays all the account info. All right, great. So let's run it and test it, and then I'll show you how you can make it even one step better. Because the code is getting long enough that it's hard to see the overall structure of the program. It's easy to kind of get lost in all these lines. So I'll show you a nice thing that you can do. All right, here we go. I'm going to create an account for Bob, whose PIN is 123. I'm going to create another account for Jane, whose PIN is 321. Let's deposit. So let's display all the account names. So there's Bob and Jane. Now I'm going to deposit. Type the name of the account. I want to deposit into Bob. I'm going to deposit $1,000. Bob was 123. Okay, so now let's display the balance for Bob. And it says Bob's got 1,000. Great. Now I'm going to display the balance for Jill. And it says nothing. Now I'm going to display the balance for Bob. And it says nothing. So one thing I'm noticing about the user interface is maybe we need to give a little bit more feedback. Like if we type Jill and Jill doesn't have a balance, we should say so. Or if there is no Jill bank account, maybe we should say so. But before we do that, let's do the cleanup that I said. So here's the big idea. The reason this is hard to see is because there's a lot of code happening for every single user choice. So here's my proposal. My proposal is let's cut all the code inside the if statement. Okay, so this if statement is about creating a new account. All right, so I'm going to cut this code. And now I'm going to create a new command that's going to do the action that I want. So I'm going to call it create new account. And I'm going to do that for every single option. And I'm going to create this method inside my main. I'm not creating it inside BankAccount because a bank account is a blueprint for one bank account. And we already have a constructor that will construct the bank account. What I'm doing over here is I'm not just making a bank account, I'm making it and also adding it to my account list. So this action is really an action about my main code over here with the list. It's not a method that involves changing a single bank account's variables, because that's what all these commands are about. If you think about a bank account as being a container for these variables, the methods for a bank account are any methods that involve changes to these variables. Okay, so let me show you what that looks like, and then we'll do it for the others. So create new account. So I'm going to go all the way to the bottom here, and I'm going to say public static void, what I call it, create new account, and now I'm going to paste my code. Okay, so now I'm noticing I've got a problem. User in doesn't exist, and account list doesn't exist. Because whenever you create a new method, it's a completely separate part of the code with all of its own variables. So my user in and my account list, those variables I created here inside main. So they don't actually exist inside the method I just created. But we have a way of sending information inside our method, and that's an input list. So I'm going to send my method here, user in, and account list. So let's figure out what data types they are. So user in is a scanner. So I'm going to copy that. And that's going to be my input. And then, so now I'm saying my method can take an input that's a scanner object. And then I'm going to use the scanner object to answer these questions. And then same thing here. Account list is an array list of bank account objects. So account list. So this is just like methods anywhere. This is just like taking inputs anywhere. I've got two variables that I'm creating, except instead of saying like string name and int money, the data types are just other data types. But it's the same idea. I'm declaring two variables that are going to hold inputs to this command. So now up here where I'm using the command, it's expecting to see a scanner, so I'm going to give it my scanner. And then it's expecting to see my account list, so I'm going to give it my account list. All right, so that's the exercise. Let's do it again. So display all accounts. I'm going to make a method for that. Display accounts. Down here, I'm going to create public static void display accounts. I'm going to paste the code. Oh, shoot, I need access to my account list. So let's make an input. Array list of bank account list. So now my command can accept an input of the account list that I want to display things for. And then back up here, I give it my account list as an input. Here it is. So here I give it my account list as an input. Okay, let's do depositing. So I'm going to cut all the code. I'm going to say do deposit option. So hopefully you can see, like, this is starting to get easier to read. If their choice was 0, then create an account. If their choice was 1, display the accounts. If their choice was 2, do the deposit option. So I'm just going to go ahead and like fill in the rest of these really fast. You can feel free to fast forward the video if you want. Do deposit option. I paste it. I need a scanner and an account list. So let's grab my scanner and account list, because I know it's sort of like for a create new account, I know I need these two variables. So I'm just going to grab them and define them here, just so that I don't have to type. But it's the same idea. I have two input variables, one that's a scanner, one that's a bank account list. So then up here, I'm going to give it my user in, which is my scanner, and I'm going to give it my account list. All right. So let me show you another side effect of what's nice about this. Inside do deposit option, here, let's go there. So let me teach you a quick thing. If you're on a PC, you can hold the control key and click on the name. If you're on a Mac, you can hold the command key and click on the name. But if you hold control or command and then click, it will jump you down to where that command is created. All right, so inside do deposit option, it might be nice before asking them what account they want to display the name of all the accounts. So list of account names. And then you know what I can do? I already created a command for displaying accounts. So you don't need to loop over all the commands and get them all out and print their names, because it's already doing that here. So instead I can just run my own method. I can say display accounts, and then I'll give it my account list as input. And now the do deposit option is going to run the display account method as the first thing that it does. So it'll say, here's a list of the account names here, and then it'll print the account names, and then it will ask you to type the name of the account you want. I'm going to display like a couple of bars here just to separate things. Let's do some other things. So it's a little bit tricky to know what should we do if we never find the account name. Because the problem is I can't put an else statement here because we're not expecting this if statement to be true all the time. If the account that I'm trying to access is like the 10th account in the list, I'm going to loop through a whole bunch of locations and look at the names, and they're not going to be the one I'm looking for. But I don't want every single time for it to say, like, there is no account with that name. Because I only want it to say there's no account with that name if we get to the very end and we've never found the account. So how can we do that? I'll show you a nice trick that you can use. So let's separate the two. So here we're mixing together a lot of stuff. We're looping over a list. We're trying to find an account. And then when we do find the account, we're doing some stuff with it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to separate this into two steps. Step one is find the account. And then totally separate after that, we're going to do stuff with the account. So it might not be clear what I mean, but let me show you right now. I'm going to create a bank account variable B, but I'm going to set it to be null. Null just means there is no object. So right now it's like I've got a container that could be holding my bank account, but it's empty. So now I'm going to do the code where I loop over my bank accounts to try and find the one I want. Oh, I can't call it B because this one's also called B. So I'm going to call this my account. Okay, so I'm looping over a bunch of bank accounts. I'm calling each one B. I'm testing the name. So let's pretend I find the bank account I'm looking for. Instead of doing all this stuff, instead I'm going to set my account to be equal to B. So I'm going to take the bank account that was the one I was looking for, and I'm going to save it inside this variable so I can use it later. So now this code, all it does is it loads this variable with a bank account that has the name I want. So it's like I'm searching through the list and I save the right one into this variable. So now that I've saved the right one, I can do stuff with it as a second step because it's after the for loop. So now I can say, how much do you want to deposit? What's your PIN? Except now instead of saying B, I'm going to say my account. So this is like a different way of organizing the code. There's several reasons why this is better, but let me give you one obvious one right now. So this makes it possible to display a message that says the account wasn't found. Because now if I find the account as I'm looping through all my choices, I'll save it here. Let's pretend I search for an account that doesn't exist. There is no account with that name. In that case, this if statement will never be true because there is no account that has that name. So I'll never assign a bank account value to the my account variable. So what that means is if there is no account with the name I'm looking for, it's still going to have null inside. So now I can say something like, if my account equals null, then I know I didn't find it. There's no account with that name. And if I did find it, I can do an else statement. If I did find it, then I can decide to ask the other questions and do the thing I'm looking for. So that's sort of a nice way of organizing the code. All right. So the solution to, all right, so let's go back up. So we're getting some fairly lengthy programs now. It's getting serious. So you can go ahead and repeat the same pattern for the do withdraw option and for the display account info option. You don't have to do this pattern that I just showed you where you loop over the thing. Where you loop over the thing and save it into a separate variable. If you want to use the original pattern, that's fine. If you are thinking about taking AP Computer Science next year, you should start practicing this other pattern because it's going to lead to even cleaner code eventually. All right. I hope that this was helpful. Good luck, everybody. You can come to office hours if you want.